Vice President, Hamas has accepted a ceasefire deal. Hamas has accepted a ceasefire deal. Your reaction?
What are your thoughts on Hamas accepting a ceasefire deal?
The Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, what are your thoughts on Hamas accepting a ceasefire deal? I think she said shrimp and grits. Shrimp and grits was her response to that. Held up a bag of Togo food to go, and said shrimp and grits. That was her answer as she got into an armored limousine with big, strong men suffering from toxic masculinity and carrying firearms, providing security to her. They were white, too. That's got to be difficult for her. Because her husband is white, but never mind that. There's still a bunch of racists. She yesterday was out there. She had some racist stuff yesterday. Or she's talking about the brothers. She's talking about the brothers. And it's like, talking about your own brothers? No, she's talking about race. She's, because Democrats. Well, happy Thursday to you, and welcome back once again. We are at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625 is the telephone number here. Now, I want to get to Joe Biden. Joe Biden and the Democrats betraying our ally Israel, which represents civilization on the frontier. It's Fort Apache on the edge of Indian Territory. Israel is, and civilization, make no mistake, is very much under attack, under assault on the planet Earth. And the United States of America is nowhere to be found in this battle to save civilization from the troglodytes from hell. Now, here are a couple of numbers for you before I get to the Joe Biden sitting down with the embarrassing Erin Burnett. But let me share this with you. 1,594 Israeli soldiers and civilians have been killed, murdered, since Israel's last Memorial Day. You know, we just observed Joe Biden gave a speech day before yesterday, Holocaust Remembrance Day and so on. But 1,594 soldiers and civilians in Israel murdered by the troglodytes over the course of the last year, according to figures released by authorities on Thursday, that's today, marking the deadliest year for the country of Israel and the country's security forces, civilians and military, in 5 decades. Greatest number of Israelis killed in 5 decades. All right, that's half a century. And bringing the total tally of casualties in the war to 30,134. Now, according to the Defense Ministry, 760 soldiers were killed during their military service in the past year. Another 61 disabled veterans died due to complications from injuries sustained during their service in previous years, but died this year having trouble getting access to health care and so on. It's pretty amazing stuff. Now, the Democrat Party, they're not on the side of Israel anymore. And if you're Jewish, and President Trump had a comment on this morning, because President Trump came out in front of the courthouse where the lynch mob gathers on a daily basis, and the Democrats are trying to jail their political enemies, as you see in third world countries, because the Democrat Party is a third world party. And Joe Biden is the number one jihadi on the planet Earth. He is the most useful jihadi. The most important jihadi is Joe Biden. When it comes to the war against Israel, no one is more important than Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the most important jihadi on the planet. The front page, the headline of the New York Post today, giant headline, "Betrayed," with a picture of Joe Biden sitting across from Benjamin Netanyahu. Biden vows to cut off weapons if Israel tries to finish off Hamas. And the head of national security in Israel, Itamar Ben Gabir, on his Twitter account, his X account, wrote this morning, Hamas heart Biden. Hamas loves Biden. Now, President Trump in front of the courthouse today before going in to have to sit through another day of lynch mob of the Salem witch trials.
What Biden is doing with respect to Israel is disgraceful. If any Jewish person voted for Joe Biden, they should be ashamed of themselves. He's totally abandoned Israel, and nobody can believe it. I guess he feels good about it because he did it as a political decision. You have to do the right decision, not the political decision.
Now, I've been saying the same thing, any Jewish voter that voted for Biden, and I got to tell you, any Jewish voter that votes for Biden this year, pretty outrageous decision if you're Jewish and you voted for Biden, and it's got to be more than embarrassing. It should be to your eternal shame. And texting with a friend today, as a matter of fact, who is Jewish, and going back and forth and trading the latest developments, which I'm about to get to with you. Pretty amazing stuff. And my Jewish friend said, and Biden is, two-faced Jew haters who want their money, from Jewish donors and want their votes as Jewish voters, but not as much as he wants to win Hamtramck and other Arab-rich parts of Michigan, a key swing state. So they treat Jews like they treat blacks. They take us for granted, my friend said. And it's true, you're a black voter, you're voting for Democrats. That never made sense. It makes less sense now than ever before. Look what they're doing to your cities and on and on. And my friend said, I think he's in for a surprise come November. You anti-Semite, doddering old racist, my friend texted this morning. And honestly, if you're a Jewish voter, if you're a black voter, and you're voting Democrat, what is it that you are thinking? Crazy. Now, that was President Trump in front of the courthouse. And let's get to what Joe Biden said yesterday when he sat down with Erin Burnett, because you've got government officials in Israel saying Hamas loves Biden. You've got the front page of the New York Post today with the betrayed headline, and the Democrat Party and the news media, but I repeat myself, have no problem with that. Why is that? Well, because it's about electoral victory in November. That's all it's about. It's about winning Michigan. Their two-state solution involves Michigan and Minnesota because they want power. And if they don't get it, President Trump wins on Election Day, it's pretty much guaranteed that our cities will burn again because the Democrats. Now, here is Joe Biden. Hey, there are reports that you're withholding a shipment, and they decided well over a week ago to withhold the shipment of bombs, munitions that Israel is using to fight a genocidal terrorist army called Hamas, funded by Iran, both of which are funded by the Democrat Party with U.S. tax dollars and beyond. Oil money and lifting sanctions, which the Biden administration did at the United Nations about 2 weeks ago, and then they lied to us about it, and then the media ignored it. Here's Joe Biden yesterday with Erin Burnett.
Civilians have been killed in Gaza as a consequence of those bombs and other ways in which they go after population centers. And I made it clear that
and other ways.
If they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah,
yeah, they have.
I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem.
Yeah, I'm not supplying. If they go after Hamas, which is in their charter dedicated to wiping out the state of Israel, they proved that they are bloodthirsty ghouls. And I just shared with you the numbers, the greatest number of Israelis killed in a half century. And Joe Biden is announcing, between the soldiers and the civilians, and Joe Biden is announcing that he is pulling U.S. military support for Israel. And do you ever hear him say, pound the table and say, Hamas, hand over the hostages. You know, they apparently have, how many? I think 8 Americans that they're holding hostage. And apparently 3 of them are already dead, and they have their bodies, and they're not turning over their bodies. And 3 hostages that are doubtless being raped and tortured every day, American hostages, and 130 total hostages, of which 8 are Americans, and 3 of those are dead. And Joe Biden never has a peep, not one syllable for that. And he doesn't talk about all the Israelis killed. And you know, honestly, the hostages that, those Israelis, they're killing civilians. Well, they're dropping bombs because there's a war going on. These people, your Democrat Party, just amazing. So Joe Biden talking to Erin Burnett on CNN yesterday.
We're going to continue to make sure Israel is secure in terms of Iron Dome and their ability to respond to attacks. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used.
We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used. We'll keep Iron Dome because you got to keep Iron Dome, which is a missile defense system. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. Because Hamas continues to fire missiles and rockets into Israel and to kill people, as they did just the other day, wounding 10 at a kibbutz and then killing 3 or 4. The numbers were squishy because they continue to wage war against Israel. And yet there are no admonitions for Hamas. There are no threats that the Democrats, Joe Biden, are leveling against Hamas. Isn't that remarkable? And Joe Biden is threatening Benjamin Netanyahu.
I've made it clear to Bibi and the War Cabinet, they're not going to get our support if, in fact, they go in these population centers. We're not walking away from Israel's security. We're walking away from Israel's ability to wage war in those areas.
So it's not over your red line yet?
Not yet, but we've held up the weapons. We've held up the one shipment. As an old shipment, it was been designed for. We've held that up.
It's not an old shipment. It was in the pipeline. It was scheduled to ship to Israel by air or by sea a couple of weeks ago. And Joe Biden secretly, and this is one of the dirty little secrets here, is that the Biden White House, kept it a secret from us. And the news media, accidentally, one news organization found out about it and published it, and that's what you get from CNN. That's it. Oh, and he's already held it up and said, but the red line hasn't been crossed, but you already held it up. And you held it up a week and a half ago, and you kept it a secret from the American people and from the press, and you're already undermining them, and now Hamas loves Biden. Senator Lindsey Graham was on a little bit of a tear about this yesterday. Lindsey Graham.
You're telling me you're going to tell them how to fight the war and what they can and can't use when everybody around them wants to kill all the Jews? If we stop weapons necessary to destroy the enemies of the state of Israel at a time of great peril, we will pay a price. This is Hiroshima and Nagasaki on steroids.
I don't know, it's Hiroshima and Nagasaki on steroids, but, you know, but it's I'm glad he really seems to care. That is Lindsey Graham. Now, I've got a lot more for you. The former Israeli ambassador to the United States and Senator Rick Scott, and I've got more for you on this topic because this is the world at war. And where is the United States? Where is Joe Biden? The war for civilization is on in the 21st century, and the Democrat Party, led by Joe Biden and really by Barack Obama, who is the puppet master here. Somebody should ask Obama why he hates the Jews. You remember his pastor, Jeremiah Wright, saying that he wouldn't meet with President Obama when he was first elected because the Jews wouldn't let him. That was Barack Obama's spiritual guidepost, the racist, anti-American Jeremiah Wright.
Have you spoken with him since he's been in the White House?
Them Jews ain't gonna let him talk to me.
You know them Jews ain't going to let him talk to me. Nice grammar, too. The next generation in the pipeline, courtesy of these people. You know, being a mother is one of the toughest jobs in the world, as everyone knows, requiring endless patience and love and sacrifice After being nurturers, problem solvers, cheerleaders, chauffeurs, and superheroes for everyone else, who's going to care for Mom? Well, now's the time to show Mom that she deserves to be pampered with deluxe footwear that supports her every step and her every move. With G-Defy's innovative technology to help her reduce knee pain, back pain, foot pain, Mom can enjoy all-day comfort without compromising her style. Whether she's running errands, chasing after little ones, or just enjoying a leisurely stroll through the neighborhood, G-Defy shoes help provide the perfect blend of support and elegance. Let Mom know with every step she takes that she's appreciated and loved by you. With the gift of G-Defy shoes, use the code CHRIS for $30 off orders of $130 or more at gdefy.com. That's GDEFY.com. Show Mom you care with G-Defy. Bum, ba-da-da-da-dum. We had a listener call in, a liberal, I guess, call in to say, "Tell Chris, I know he's Jewish, but tell him to stop talking about Israel." So I'm Irish Catholic, but that's okay. This is the Biden voter out there.
He really seems to care about what I have no idea.
Let's go to the telephones before we get back to the news of the day, and there's a lot of it, and President Trump and beyond. Let's go to Matt, calling from Rockville, Maryland. Matt, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Morning, Chris.
Hey, Matt.
So Joe Biden is withholding aid, in this case military aid, to appease his radical left base. So he's doing something, we'll say, that's not in the best interest of the United States, and he's doing it to garner support. Now, Chris, has there been anything in recent history of withholding aid to a different country to garner support, as we hear? Possibly a quid pro quo, I don't know. We'll say Donald Trump, perhaps. I'm just pulling a name out of a hat.
Yeah.
And it just seems a little odd that has not been brought up. And Democrat Mike Johnson, who I strongly feel is a Democrat, he is a rhino in every sense of the word. If he had any stones at all, he would at least bring this up, maybe not for a vote or anything, but at least bring it up on camera and just say, hey, this was done to the previous president. We should investigate, and just light a little fire.
Yeah, it's Donald Trump was, of course, impeached by the Democrats for a phone call to Ukraine. And the mere suggestion that we would withhold aid as long as Ukraine withheld information about a crooked politician named Joe Biden. And Donald Trump was impeached for that. Minor detail, right, Matt? Well, the answer is they're the left. They're the left, and I know that sounds too simplistic. They're commies and socialists, and they're anti-American, and boy, they're not on our side. And they prove it every day. And if you're Jewish or if you're black and you're a Democrat, it's time to reassess because these people are not good for us. Yesterday on CNN, there was a back and forth out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where they were having their little fake journalistic thing. And they had David Axelrod, who, of course, was an Obama administration official. He's a Democrat apparatchik. Before that, he was a Chicago-based news reporter, because you can go from being a news reporter to being a senior Democrat official, or you can go from being a senior Democrat official to being a news reporter. But yesterday, David Axelrod and a little circle fest of Democrats sitting outside in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, looking beautiful in the background there. And they did have one person with common sense in there, Scott Jennings. And let me tell you, Matt, just talking to Matthew a couple of minutes ago, and Matt brought this up. The same subject came up amazingly yesterday on CNN for a matter of seconds when a Republican commentator, Scott Jennings, made the same point that Matthew made on our air just moments ago.
Republicans in Congress are going to be livid about this issue
because
right
they
here.
think they have a good issue.
Well,
Scott,
no.
I get it. I think they think that he's the president of the United States. They're
This
just
is about
politicians trying to take
withholding.
advantage.
This is about withholding the weapons from Israel, the weapons shipment from Israel. And Matt was saying, hey, isn't this what they impeached Donald Trump for in the Ukraine instance?
About this issue
Because
right
they
here.
think they have a good issue.
Well,
Scott,
no.
I get it. I think they think that
No.
he's
Axelrod.
the president of the United States. They're just politicians trying to take advantage of a situation.
Well, no, I
get
think
that.
I think they support our ally, and maybe he doesn't. They're going to recall a time when we impeached the president of the United States for withholding military aid authorized by Congress from Ukraine. $400 million. That was the basis of the impeachment. This is congressionally authorized military aid to our ally, and he is withholding it for political reasons.
So wait 1 second. I'm sorry, it's your show.
Go.
The basis of that impeachment was that the president of the United States called the president of Ukraine, and he said, I want you to do me a favor and open an investigation on the person who I think may be my opponent in the next election. That was the basis
and he
of the
wants
impeachment.
Israel to stand down on Rafah because his base is mad at him. It's a political reason.
That's a political reason. And President Trump was asking about millions of dollars going from Ukraine into the pockets of the Biden family, which was all true. And the Democrat Party and the news media, but I repeat myself, are pretending that that's just fine, that Joe Biden and his family can take millions from Ukraine. And then we send tens and tens of billions to Ukraine and don't ask any questions about where the tens of billions are going, while people are buying yachts and airplanes and beautiful houses on the Mediterranean Sea, and nobody's monitoring from the New York Times and 60 Minutes to the Biden administration, of the Justice Department, and the Defense Department, and nobody cares. Some people surely know, but never mind that. And Joe Biden and his family get millions and millions of dollars from Ukraine. Yes, funneled through Hunter Biden and their shell companies where they launder the money, and that's all fine, isn't it? Yes, it is. All right, now let's go back to the. So Matt, I listened to your points well made, and reminded me of this CNN episode yesterday where Scott Jennings made the same point. Hey, wait a minute, would you? Scott Jennings is a writer, and he's a conservative commentator, and he made that very important point about the double standard once again, which is everywhere. Now, let's go to soundbite number 12. This is Michael Oren. Michael Oren is a very smart man, and he is Israel's now former ambassador to the United States. And he was on the television last night being asked about Joe Biden withholding arms shipments from the United States to Israel while they're fighting Hamas, because the Hamas leadership takes shelter among civilians. And again, Israel has had more people killed in the past year than they've had killed in the 50 years preceding. And Joe Biden is Hamas's best friend.
It's frightening. We're fighting a two-front war, at least two fronts. The message to Israel, the message to American allies around the world is very, very unfortunate, and very a mixed message. I would question whether it's actually a legal move. The Congress, about 20 years ago, passed a bill called QME, Qualitative Military Edge, which obligates any administration, Republican or Democrat, to report to Congress on the degree to which the United States is enabling Israel to defend itself by itself against any Middle Eastern adversary or any combination of Middle Eastern adversaries.
Yeah, well, Congress passes a lot of bills. That doesn't mean that the Democrats abide by them. The Supreme Court told Joe Biden he couldn't pay off student loan debt, and he went back to doing it immediately after changing one word the way they did it, because he's a dangerous fraud of a leader, and his brain doesn't work at all. Remarkable stuff. Senator Rick Scott is a Republican from Florida, and he's talking about, again, Joe Biden says, if they go into Rafah, which is where the Hamas leadership is, and where they have multiple brigades, that is to say thousands of armed men, and yes, they're taking refuge, taking shelter among civilians, which is what they always do. often in hospitals and schools, because they want Israel. And I played the audio for you a couple of days ago, the IDF soldier calling a house in Gaza and explaining that there is a bank across the street that's about to be blown up, so get your family out of there. And the father of the family of 20 said, no, my children will die and be martyrs, and that will prove that you're the bad guys. So he stayed there to sacrifice his whole stinking family, and they did stink. And the Democrats here, they're suckers for it every time. Senator Rick Scott last night.
I was just in Israel about a month ago. I met with Netanyahu and Gantz and Gallant, and they have to go in. That's where Hamas is. The battalions are left in Rafah.
That's where they are. They've got multiple battalions. That's where the leadership is. You have to, when you're fighting a war, go where the bad guys are. That's the whole point. And the bad guys lure the Israelis, and by extension, civilization itself, into a situation where you have to blow them up where they are, or go in there on the ground, on foot, where the casualty rates will in fact be much, much higher on both sides, and in particular, the fatality rate much higher for Israel. Senator Rick Scott.
We still have 8 American hostages, 5 alive, 3 dead, and they're holding them. They're holding all these other Israeli hostages. I went to Kfar Aza, half a mile from Gaza, a month ago. I saw where babies were beheaded, women were raped, people were shot at point blank, burned alive. And this president is saying they're not going to give them the aid.
No, I'm sorry. That is the harsh reality of what's going on here. There's no doubt about it. And it's a terrible, horrible reality, but it is the reality nonetheless. And that's why we're supposed to have adults in charge who recognize the harsh, unpleasant, often horrifying realities of the world that we live in. And you're supposed to recognize that we're the good guys and they're the bad guys, because it's obviously true. Just extraordinary. And President Trump, in front of the courthouse today, also condemned what Joe Biden is doing. And Doug Burgum. We have that cut. Oh, and Governor Doug Burgum. And let's go to the Governor Doug Burgum. He was on the television this morning on the Fox News channel. And Doug Burgum, in case you don't know who he is the governor, a Republican, the governor of the great state of North Dakota, and a very successful businessman who has started companies and sold them. And he started a software company that he sold for $1.1 billion before he became the governor of North Dakota. And I actually met him briefly, and we talked for about 10 minutes at the Newsmax headquarters here in Washington, D.C. And I got to tell you, he couldn't have been a more relaxed, normal, regular guy. Very casual. He was there with his son, who seemed to be really squared away, and a good young man, and an adult. Grunt, I think he's like 6'6" or something. His son, but really nice guy. And he was on the television this morning talking about this very topic.
We've always had a rule, which is don't negotiate with terrorists. But Joe Biden has gone way beyond that. He's actually negotiating for the terrorists. He's put a red line for Israel, for our ally. And when you think about that, think of every one of our allies around the world watching this and going, wow, Israel is supposed to be America's top ally, and the president is threatening them. How about Joe Biden saying, we're going to keep providing weapons until you release the hostages, Hamas? He should be negotiating alongside of Israel. He's on the opposite side of the table.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, we need people that are interested in standing up for Western civilization and for civilization itself against radical Islam and their genocidal death cult, which is actively murdering, holding hostages, including 8 American hostages, 3 of them apparently already murdered, and they're still holding the bodies. And that's your Biden administration and your Democrat Party, honestly. Now, speaking of the Democrat Party, these people, Democrat members of Congress, squad members, Cori Bush and Rashida Tlaib, and they're talking about the pro-Hamas rallies and encampments on American college campuses right now. They had these radical left-wing anti-American extremists, Democrat members of Congress, like Cori Bush, who's a racist on top of those other things, and the pro-Hamas encampments on college campuses are a really good thing, according to Congresswoman Democrat Cori Bush.
From GWU to WashU and everywhere else, students have been violently beaten without provocation.
Lie.
They have been arrested and charged with disproportionate offenses.
Lie.
They have been wrongfully smeared as anti-Semitic.
Lie. She's an anti-Semite. She's a racist. She's anti-American. She's a Democrat member of Congress in good standing within the Democrat Congressional Caucus, headed by Hakeem Jeffries, whose mentor as a young man growing up was Professor Leonard Jeffries, his uncle, who is a famous and notorious virulent anti-Semite going way back. Cori Bush is just your run-of-the-mill Democrat extremist these days. The cops are the bad guys. The pro-Hamas people are the good guys. My. I thought we had two Cori Bush. I was wrong. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, and so Rashida Tlaib is the next one, and she is a radical and extremist and a jihadi and a mainstream Democrat, and they love the pro-Hamas movement on campuses.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
That's the Congresswoman.
Palestine!
I want all the Democrats and Republicans to know they cannot arrest their way out of this growing dissent.
You can't arrest your way out of taking over campuses. What, you got to shoot your way out of it? What, you want like Kent State times 10,000? What is it that you want? And free, again, you expletive deleted. The so-called Palestinians are the freest Arabs in the Arab world thanks to Israel, thanks to the Jewish leadership there, thanks to the Jewish people. They are the freest Arabs. They're not more free in Egypt and certainly not in Syria or Lebanon or Saudi Arabia or Iraq or any place else. But never mind that. Rashida Tlaib with her pro-Hamas rants.
It is incredibly disturbing, though, you all, that my colleagues are so quick to denounce the student protesters, but are silent about these young people, about why they are protesting.
Yeah, silent about these young people while they're protesting. Yeah, sure. They should be on the side of these pro-Hamas people because you are. Amazing. I got more. Have you seen the students on the hunger strike at Princeton University, another Ivy League? They're on a hunger strike. And really, I think I know why. In particular, this lead woman, everybody knows why she's on a hunger strike, right? Just take one look at her. Yeah, hunger strike. You can call it what you want, but we know what it is. Hey, when you get sick, where do you go? Well, you go to the doctor, of course. Why wouldn't you do effectively the same thing about your taxes? And, the tax day is in the rearview mirror, but that doesn't mean your tax problems are over. Am I right? We've all heard the horror stories, the IRS targeting people, stepping up staffing, and everybody's got to pay everything that they can take from you. IRS stories never end well, so let me tell you about my friends at Legal Tax Defense. If you have unfiled back taxes or if you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, then it's time to call the legal experts at Legal Tax Defense. Because at Legal Tax Defense, they have a team of tax attorneys and legal professionals that'll help guide you through the complicated tax codes and bring you out of your legal troubles. They're here to help you. That's why they get out of bed in the morning. With former IRS tax attorneys and expert tax professionals, Legal Tax Defense is here to help you resolve your federal and state income tax problems. So call them today. Don't procrastinate anymore. Call 800-472-0467. For more than 10 years now, Legal Tax Defense has helped save taxpayers like you millions and millions in back taxes owed. So call now to get qualified for your tax relief options. The call is confidential. The call is free. Call them now at 800-472-0467. That's 800-472-0467. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, we got hunger strikers. The Democrat Party has created a lot of unwellness in America, and they're depending on the mentally ill vote to win. Keep that in mind come Election Day. All right, we got a lot. There's other news too, and President Trump and the Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee today, always fun. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Leo calling from Fairfax, Virginia. Leo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yeah, hey, Chris. I just wanted to say that more proof that the Republicans are chumps. They pass a Ukraine aid bill, an Israel aid bill, and then Biden just cancels the Israel aid bill. So that's my only comment. They should close the House down until the aid resumes.
You know, that's a great point, Leo. You're absolutely right. It's passed by Congress, and by the way, the story is that Joe Biden stopped the shipment of arms to Israel and kept it a secret from Congress. They didn't tell Congress, and you're absolutely right. The House of Representatives and the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, should raise hell. They should be, and you're right. The Republicans, you said chumps, good word. Fun word. And you're right. They should be pounding the table and talking about how Joe Biden once again is ignoring the Constitution, branches of government, the separation of powers, the authority of Congress, and defying Congress, just as he defied the Supreme Court in paying off student loan debt when the Supreme Court said that he could not. These people are basically commies.